Good evening and welcome to the Mancunian Way. Hope you are all good. My name is Martin. I'm your host, joined by fellow Mancunian Way Richard. Good morning, mate. How are you?
Good morning. Very good. Thank you. Very good.
Are you good? Are you sure?
I am good. Yeah. I never normally say that. Normally.
There we go. We've gone black and yellow today for a little bit of a reason.
Yeah. For Oxford United. We are now a Manchester City and Oxford United channel.
Tonight, we're going to talk all about transfers. Now, I was keeping quiet on one or two things. We did tell you one thing on the channel a while ago, but we were trying to keep quiet on some things, and we will. There's still some things we're keeping quiet about, but it all came out a lot of it this morning from various sources. So now we can talk about one or two. Now, before anyone gets excited, this is not all for January. No, we're not going out spending 500 million in January. Let's all just calm down on that. We're not going out buying a whole new squad out in January.
So we pretty much have it available now after the results this week. Anyway.
Well, we have it as well, yeah. But yes, we are looking at players in January, is what I was told by the person I speak to. Now, obviously today there was the Leroy Sané link, there was the Haaland and Wirtz link, there was the Lucas Paquetá news. Over the last few weeks, there's even been tentative rumours on Kylian Mbappe, rumours on Calvin Phillips, all sorts of things going on. It's like mad. But what we'll do is, like I said, we're going to cut the wheat from the chaff and see what we think is true, what we think might be BS, what we think might be summer, what we think might be January. Because you've also got to remember, it is the internationals, and you do get a lot of fake news coming out during internationals because it's a slow news day. But just say some hellos. Rich, while I'm saying some hellos, do you want to give us your thoughts on City pissing everyone off and making a shit ton of money again?
I just think it's amazing, really. It just shows you, and you know, it's quite funny. You saw a couple of people tweeting after it. You know, it's all coming from Abu Dhabi, and when you look at it, you know, 85% of it is coming from other sources. So even if you took out our stadium and kit sponsorship, which now is probably arguably underpriced, and we could probably quite easily get the same on the open market. It's still higher turnover than nearly every other club in the Premier League. You know, just because of the prize money.
Stop right now. Who's popping beers at 7 a.m. where you are? No way.
Yeah.
No way do they still have Orangina.
They do. And I found a place that sold some, so I bought a 4-pack the other day. Because I love Orangina.
Sorry, carry on. I just
heard my childhood.
The bottle opening and thought, oh yeah.
And after the scandal of Karamek going, I thought when I saw Orangina, I better get some. Just, you know,
I'm laughing because Blue Art's doing his own stand-up comedian show here.
Is he?
I do like them, but go on, carry on, Rich. Yeah,
obviously. Yeah, so just saying, you know, our turnover is now higher than, you know, something like 16 other clubs, even if you take in the Premier League, even if you take out the Abu Dhabi sponsorship. So it is just ridiculously high now. And there must be, you know, the treble was great, but when you see the wage increase, which must be a lot of that just purely down to the, I mean, part of it will be Haaland, obviously, but part of it must be the bonuses the players were getting for the winning the treble, and there must have been
520 staff as well, Rich.
Yeah, no, but the increase year on year, they had 520 staff the year before, so there must have been some players pocketing 100 grand a week for the whole year just in bonuses from winning the treble. So there must be probably some nice fancy pajamas being purchased by Erling and Riyadh and people after that season. So no, it's amazing, and it would mean that we've just got the power now to not only have a lot of room in the P&L if we wanted to have more wages or spend more money, but the cash flow, everything. I think it's just it just shows that the position the club have got themselves in. When your feeder club can be top of La Liga, which is supposed to be the second best league in Europe, and you're making, getting closer and closer to, the first $1 billion turnover, £1 billion, I should say, football club. It's ridiculous.
22 million behind the world record of Real Madrid. 22 million.
And, to think, it does only seem like yesterday we were going to Eddie Phillips's club shop in a porter cabin and buying, old programs, and probably the club was making, in the tens of thousands from all that sort of thing. And now
we were gonna start, like I said, the main roadshow, which we'll get into all that about the club shop and can't swing a cat around the club shop and everything else. But obviously, it was the Creator Awards tonight over at Anfield, and I do want to wish everyone who's the best of luck who is out there currently live, and I wish you all the best. I hope the City creators get what they need, because I think it's the same old people. It needs to be it's the same old big accounts, Arsenal, United. It needs to be getting shared around, because football isn't just Arsenal, United, and Liverpool. City, I've got to say as well. City have some amazing channels. Doesn't matter whether they're big. I know you've got to be huge to get entered in it and everything else. I know that. Big up, Daniel. How are you? So Mancunian, where we won't be in that because we're not big enough. But the simple fact is, people are doing it as the business as well. We're not. This is not our livelihood, our business. We do this for fun, love, and everything else. Yes, we want to get bigger. Of course we do. But other people are doing it. It is their livelihood as well. Ed, you want to stick around, because I am going to do a Twitter space later on this as well, if you are around. Rodri, Eddie Haaland. Yeah, there is, by the way, I'm going to start with a little bit of cautious news. Rodri did miss the Spain game.
Discomfort.
He has got some discomfort. He has been withdrawn from international duty, from the game. So I don't know at the moment. Spain have already qualified for the Euros. So I don't know if it's a major thing, but he has been withdrawn from the game. It was on COPE or COPE report that Rodri reported discomfort to medical staff this week, prompting his omission from the squad to face Cyprus this evening.
I think it's definitely it's definitely a pattern this week. I mean, half our called-up players now pretty much seem to have pulled out. Edison obviously pulling out, Ake pulling out, Kovacic pulling out. So, either we're starting to turn into Ferguson's United and the players pull out if there's the slightest thing, or we do have a bit of an injury crisis. Let's hope it's the former.
Yeah. Good evening, Matt Fogg. How are you? Everyone in the chat, Duke, Blue Heart, as always, Cade, everyone, Ed, you're all superstars. Peter Grester, hope you are well, mate. Good evening to you. Andrew, top of the league. And we'll get into it all. Right. So Manchester City today have been linked with Florian Wirtz, Leroy Sané, Lucas Paquetá, and obviously there was rumours last week of the Kylian Mbappe. The Kylian Mbappe is more the pipe dream, which, nobody knows. That's just people throwing our name in a hat to Kylian Mbappe. So, yeah. But, obviously, told me... Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I think it's partly because of, whether it's a game by Madrid, but with all the Madrid comments suggesting Mbappe's not going there, you suddenly do have one of the, ultimate, two biggest talents in football available. And the truth is, it's as much about, it's probably more about who Kylian Mbappe wants to go to and would be prepared to go to and what would he take than it is actually about who would have him, because there's not a club around who wouldn't have him in the right circumstances. So I think that's why it's that. And that and the Ballon d'Or, when he was put to sit next to Bernardo and Ruben Diaz, and spent the evening chatting away with them. So that's probably part of it. A bit of a lack of PSG players at the Ballon d'Or. And no, I haven't found any Karamak bars.
Anyway, 100% that ratio. He's on his way, Alec. I believe everything the papers say. No. Right. I mean, let's kick off. The Leroy Sané thing came from Christian Falk, who, let's be honest, he's generally Bayern Munich spokesperson. So take with that with a pinch of salt. Leroy Sané has only got 2 years left on his deal at Bayern. He is trying to negotiate a contract, I believe. For me, I got told there was City have always had an interest in Leroy. It's not that they would never have him back, because I think they would. But I think there's a difference between having a want and will it really happen? Because the thing is, simple fact is, I'm not sure whether Leroy Sané is really going to happen. And maybe that's me as a person. I'm a firm believer if you never go back. I'm also a firm believer of, was he badly advised? He left for a reason. He would have to completely change his game around to play now for Pep. Whether he's, willing to do that, I don't know. Whether Pep's changed his whole system and gone, right, I want all out, let's go, Galactico flair. That I don't know. We're just guessing if we played that game. But Leroy Sané, Rich, I know you love him.
Yeah.
I know you do. But can you really see that one happening?
Probably a little bit less now than last summer. I actually thought it might happen last summer, but Doku coming in and some of the other rumours seem hard to imagine they could happen at the same time as Leroy, because Leroy's either going to go back as an out winger, but the way Foden and Foden's playing and Doku's playing and stuff, that becomes harder, because he doesn't want to come and play 10, 15 games a season. He sees himself.
Well, I don't know, Rich. With the list I've got in front of me, they're all going to have problems.
Well, they are, but we won't sign them all. But what we do know is that Leroy has come back a number of times. His missus is the exact. I mean, really, we should do a transfer deal where Bernardo's missus becomes Leroy's missus and vice versa, because then we'd be sorted. Because Leroy's better half is, has been back to Manchester many times and very keen on Manchester and very positive about it. So if only could be a bit of an influence on Bernardo's wife. But the other thing is that, I've been told that Leroy actually personally apologized to Pep about the way his transfer happened and spent time talking to Cheeky, Varane and Pep. So he has gone out of his way to
still got his flat in Manchester
to fix any bridges, to build the bridges, and to actually, publicly tweet a few times about going back to Manchester or, his love for City and stuff. So I think he would probably really like to come back, and, he's definitely a good enough player. And, I've been very vocal. I still think of, all the players we've had almost in the Sheikh era that he had the highest ceiling. He hasn't achieved it, but I just thought his finishing ability was astonishing. His pace and his physical ability, his ability to beat a man.
I've had permission to go public on it.
Okay.
Do I? I don't know whether we go public on it.
Well, it's a public rumor, so if there's,
it's not public. Rich, what we talked about privately is not the public rumor, mate. That's not the public rumor. Right, hang on, let me think. I'm just right. I've had it double checked. Sané's not happening.
Yeah,
that's confirmed. Sané's not happening.
So if you can double check all of them, we can probably only talk about half the players. And you didn't even mention Musiala.
No, right. I've had it confirmed. 100% Sané's not happening. Right. I will announce the big one at the end.
Yeah.
I'm saving it till the end. You've all got to say
the microphone.
Because this, honestly, this will be around Twitter within 2 hours when we go live with this. I'm hoping we're not being wound up. The person doing it isn't winding us up, because this could destroy our channel if we play this game and we announce this guy.
Well, yeah.
Anyway,
I think the thing is, Martin, is that every single deal that can happen, as we saw with Bellingham, it's not done till it's done. And we saw a couple of other clubs, in the nose announced Erling Haaland signing for them, and it didn't happen. And we had really, strong belief inside the club that we would sign Bellingham, and it didn't happen. So
right, hang on. I'm just going to prove this to people so they know. Hang on. Just bear with me. Right. I need to cover the name up. Can you see there? Soz, mate, forgot about your show. Sané isn't happening, just been told.
Yeah.
So we're not Billy BSing you. So we're not Billy BSing you.
But Martin, there'll be deals that aren't happening, and people believe 100% aren't happening that then happen.
Stop
Equally,
it. Stop it right now.
There will be deals. Yeah, there will be deals that we,
do you know what it is with the other deal?
Negotiations.
Do you know what it is with the other deal, Rich? I don't believe it.
No, I think it's
That's what it is with me. I don't know if I fully. I'm not saying I don't believe the person who told us. I'm saying I don't fully believe what is being said. And maybe that's in this, maybe it's in this messed up thing in here. I don't know. Right. Patrick saying don't say it. Yeah. The only thing is, Pat, it will be public in 2 days. So maybe I'll just let everyone see it in 2 days. Right. Anyway, so we forget Sané. That's done. That's over. We forget that one. Sat that. Sané.
I'll never forget Sané. There'll always be a little bit of me craving for Leroy Beck and Karamex.
Right, let's talk about this guy, Paquetá. Manchester City.
Paquetá is a huge,
they've had a massive interest. The Lucas Paquetá thing is never going to go away. Now, Tolmy stuck out earlier on. I'll read you exactly what he said. Was City have established, sorry, that was on Florent Wirtz, but he does talk. He said Wirtz will also be in addition to Paquetá. The thing is with Paquetá, it's while he's got these FA charges over his head. While this is going on, you have a little bit of a problem. It's not Kimmich DC. You have a bit of a problem. Because while you have got Lucas Paquetá is desperate to come to Manchester City. City want Lucas Paquetá. To a point, I was told, before the charges came in, he was house hunting in Manchester. And then it all got kiboshed. The trouble is, I did ask for an update 2 or 3 weeks ago and was told Lucas Paquetá is getting rather frustrated with the FA. and to a point where he'd even given the FA his mobile phone.
Perfectly,
He was just getting very bored. Well, he sat there now for what, 4 months, heard no update, and he just thinks nothing's moving. And let's be honest, I'll be honest with you now, his head's already probably at Manchester City.
Yeah. Couldn't they just make it 116 charges and we sign him?
What, we sign him? No, listen, could they sign him? And City aren't going to sign him because then you're in a Sandro Tonali situation.
Yeah.
So
doesn't that just show the difference between City's professionalism in the deal and
I'm not going after Newcastle, Rich. You do that.
No, I'm not saying, but I'm saying in that the reason our deal with collapsed must be either because of investigation we made into completing the deal or the contract we were getting signed that required absolute transparency, and one of the other parties had to admit something, or we have like, you know, a process of due diligence going to these areas. But I would think exactly the same circumstances existed, you know, regardless, taking outside the guilt or not of the player, but exactly the same circumstances must have existed with Tonali, and yet Newcastle completed a deal just before it comes public, whereas
City, you don't know if you did anything tell Newcastle.
I'm assuming West Ham or Paquetá said something.
Well, the way I got told it works is
contract
within this country, because you got to remember, Rich, it was with the Italian FA.
Yeah.
The one over here is I got told when there is an investigation by the FA, they have to inform all the clubs within, you know, the Premier League.
Yeah.
So what City will have done is they'll have been informed, because like I said to you, the way transfers work is you put a interest form in and you say, we have an interest in this player. Everyone, like I said, everyone seems to think you just pick the phone up and go, "Hey, can we have this player? What do you want?" It's not that simple. You've got to put forms in, and then forms have to go to the FA, and then the FA have to look at, because there's all sorts of things that go on within a transfer. It's very more detailed than what it is. So they put a form of interest in. So the FA then know. So what has happened is the FA have gone, oh, we've got this investigation. They will have informed West Ham and informed any club looking at Paquetá that, right, no, we've got to do this. And City have gone, thanks very much, drops out for now. But they are 100% going to go after Paquetá.
Yeah.
That isn't going to go away.
And the interesting thing is that all the behaviour around that does firmly suggest that the club believe him to be innocent, because if they thought and they believed and all the facts they'd seen suggested he was guilty, they'd be staying a mile away from it. So that is interesting that
Lionel Messi, Alphonso Davies, Mbappe, just tell us at the end. I already am doing, mate. I've just, because I'm still debating whether we do or we don't. We're privately messaging going on here. If Paquetá does get sorted out in January or beforehand, could you see Calvin Phillips being involved in a deal that would see West Ham get Phillips, for example, and we get Paquetá, or would you think it would be more a straight cash deal with West Ham?
I think there'd be two separate deals. I think if Phillips went to West Ham, if he went to West Ham, nowadays it always seems to be separate deals because of the accounting. It makes it better for both clubs to value the players as high as they can. So therefore, instead of a swap, you'll have two deals going through. The only thing with Phillips is I kind of think he might stay up north. With the character he is and everything, that I've always thought it most likely goes to Newcastle, especially with Tonali out, and him at Newcastle.
Newcastle fans don't want him.
Well, yeah, but they, Newcastle fans want all the players you saying that we might sign, that we're talking about. They want the top international stars, but it doesn't mean they can sign them in January, and it doesn't mean that's what they need in January. And if they're getting Tonali back as well, so they're not even really signing they're signing someone to compete with and back up Tonali, not replacing.
Is Calvin making a mistake going to Newcastle? Because think about it this way, Rich. When everyone's fit, they've got Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali, Joe Linton. Who's the other guy they've got? What's he called? The Homegrown.
Oh,
his brother's there. Got the both brothers.
Longstaff,
yeah,
isn't it?
Longstaff. So they've got. Is Calvin Phillips stepping out of one really bad situation at City and walking into another situation at the Newcastle United?
Possibly, but
Newcastle are going to want to buy big in the summer.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not saying that that's the right football move for Calvin. I just have kind of assumed he might stay nearer to Leeds because he does seem a real homeboy. Maybe, team he could go to and compete with is he could go to a team like Villa and give him greater strength and compete with Luiz and stuff like that. So there are other options. I just think that, I suppose London's not that far, but, he probably will be looking for, someone slightly more competitive at the top of the league and from up north. But it depends whether there's interest.
Because from what we've read and we know is Juventus are after him, Bayern are interested, Fulham are interested, Everton have got an interest, but that may change if they get this deduction. There is a number of clubs wanting Calvin. I'm just thinking with Paquetá, if West Ham release him in January, I think you're looking at 100 million. But in the summertime, he's got his 80 to 85 million release clause. So do West Ham take a gamble and go, do you know what? We're going to keep him for the sake of 15 million. Or do we just cut the loss because the guy wants out? He's made it. Listen, we all know he's made it perfectly clear he wants to come and join Manchester City. So
I think
I let him go for 85 in January.
I think they look at, are they going to, if they're going to get someone like Phillips in who they feel will change the loss, that makes a difference. But ultimately, it's if they have a good run of results in December, and they're up there, they're in a strong position, thinking they're going to compete for a European place, then probably they say no, we'll keep the 15 million. If they were to, lose 5 or 6 games out of the next 7 or 8, and they're firmly bottom half, they think possibly they do so, and we'll get a couple of players in who are going to make sure we stay up. So I think in some ways, how things are on January the 10th probably shapes that, because Paquetá, I think, is more a player if you're, if they're pushing for 7th place or 6th place, getting a thing. I don't know that he's the player if they're in trouble in 16th. So I think in a way how they're doing in the league, and obviously if you're getting Phillips in return or you're getting a player like that,
I just think Rich Phillips would be better at West Ham than he would at Newcastle, and I think it would ease West Ham a little bit to get him in January.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I know the different players.
Yeah,
because this leads me on to my next question. When Phillips goes, because he's going to go, we're not stupid. I don't think we're going to buy a straight replacement for Calvin Phillips. I think we'll buy a midfielder, but it won't be a Calvin Phillips replacement. So you're not going to buy a backup number 6, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I think that what Pep is really seeing at the moment is Johnny Stones and possibly even, Lewis Akanji, even Ake as the most likely replacements there, because it was interesting, even in one of Pep's interviews recently, he almost referred to Ake and Akanji as the players who would go into that role if Rodri or Stones, possibly Lewis weren't available. So I think, I think that's clearly happening.
I think that's an interesting one from Cade here. Bayern go for Paulinho in January. Fulham could get Phillips. But it's intriguing because Bayern want Phillips. So are Bayern thinking maybe Phillips is the cheaper option because then we can give the money to sign his contract? Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking because Paulinho's what, 85 million?
And he's older, isn't he? Isn't he a year or two older?
I think he's more than 80. Well. Didn't they offer 80 in the summer and he turned it down, and that's why he ended up coming back because they couldn't agree the fee, could they?
Yeah, but something like that. Yeah.
So I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. I 100% though. I mean, Rich, do you think Lucas Paquetá will end up in a Manchester City shirt in January? You're a betting man.
Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Assuming he is cleared of all betting charges.
Yeah, let's assume he's cleared.
Then yes. It seems to me. I mean, I think the biggest thing, and was when he went out of his way to go and hug the City bench.
Everyone's going mad at me.
Not just implying that, and that implying that he'd had a lot of personal contact with one or two of the City bench, Pep and I was going to call him Lilo Lil, but that's from Bread.
One Lilo.
Anyway, yeah.
Swap deal for Kimmich. There is an interest in Kimmich. With the players, listen, we're not going to buy everyone. We're not going to buy Florian Wirtz, Paquetá, Kimmich, Musiala, Sané, the guy we've been told about, and everything else, because we're going to end up with about a squad of about 40, and you're only allowed 25.
Yeah, and at the moment, if you actually look at the rumours coming out of Spain, all the exact same players that at least 3 of those players talking about there, Real Madrid are rumoured to be getting. So there obviously is a feeling that there are a group of 5, 6, 7, 8 top players who will be available in the next 12 months. And, obviously City and Real Madrid.
Do we have enough, Rich? Because we're assuming Super City, Phillips is leaving. Between me and you, Super City, with 7 injured right now, Rodri's dropped out tonight. We've now got, currently, as things stand, I know things may change in a week, we have 13 fit players. We're at Newcastle level now. We're just about putting the 11 out. So do we have enough? I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you, Rich. I don't think we've got enough with Phillips staying.
Yeah, no, I think clearly we saw for a couple of weeks around that Arsenal-Wolves game and potentially this international break that we don't have enough. The challenge is, and the whole basis for this conversation is you can have a squad of 20, 21 top, first team players, but you can't have them all age 25. You've got to have some players in there who are either towards the end of their career and therefore, getting less game time, or they're the likes of Rico, who Rico is he's now an England international. He's absolute, I think he's a fantastic player, but he's 18, so he knows he's not going to start 60 games a season. And I think the one thing that we've missed, and we haven't done as well as perhaps we should have done, is honestly, I would like to see in our squad 3 or 4 Rico type players in the squad, giving it some depth, because at the moment we still have that massive drop off from the 17, 18, 19 core to the next level, and we do need to figure out how the Cole Palmers, the McAtees, the Riccos, the Fodens, how we have a few more that are like Rico and Foden, and a few, less who just don't quite make it, because, and that probably means Pep being a little bit braver at times to actually give them the game time, because until you play Rico or Foden and give them the chance, you don't know how it's going to go. And you know, I'm not for a second thinking we should have kept Palmer because Palmer wanted to go. But what we are seeing is when he's really given a chance, he is plenty good enough to play at the top of the Premier League. But, you know, wasn't quite trusted at City, and perhaps had he been given a little bit more time last year, he might still be at City and we might have a bit more of that depth homegrown, which we'd all want. You know, I never quite understood why Bellis wasn't given a chance, you know, to try and play the City way. You know, he never even really got a chance in you know, FA Cups or anything else. So that is the one criticism I'd have for us, is that our small squad is partly self-inflicted because we aren't quite nailing it with youth. We're nailing it in the profit and loss account with youth. I mean, you know, the financial results on the back of our youth are incredible, but all these players going off to all over the world and raising us, you know, over 200 million in the last 2 years. Surely some of them could have played 5-10 games at City and been part of that squad and given us some strength.
BB's put could be less than 13 with international break, risking more injuries. See, I do think one or two are probably a precaution. A precaution. Alan's in with a super chat. Thank you for your $7.99. Rodri's injured. He's not officially injured. He's been taken out as a precaution at the moment, Alan. So don't have your meltdowns. Don't panic.
Yeah.
No, we're there. No, relax. It's not happening yet.
Don't forget that, you know, a certain player who played at Old Trafford 950 games was injured for Wales at least 46 times, you know, unavailable to Wales due to injury about 46 times, and yet never, ever was injured for United.
How often was Gareth Bale injured for Wales? Never injured for Spurs, but injured every time Wales got brought in. And
then he became the complete opposite at Madrid. He couldn't play for Madrid, but he was always fit for Wales. I mean, yeah.
Formidable's put Kovacic, Nunes, Phillips are not City's level. But the trouble is, Formidable, you can't have a Galactico squad.
Yeah. And
then you end up with, like Rich said, he's only going to get 15. Because do you remember what I said yesterday? This was Mahrez. Mahrez sat there and went, I didn't leave City because I wasn't getting game time. And then turned around and went, but when I didn't play in the semi-final or the Champions League final, I can't. It's like, hang on a minute. You've just totally upped yourself with what you just said, Mahrez. So that's the problem. Players aren't going to sign if they're playing against Bournemouth, Everton and Villa when they want to play Real Madrid, United, Liverpool. You've got to get this balance out.
And honestly, you know, I don't think that statement's correct. Kovacic is quite clearly, whether he's the right player for our system, he's quite clear City's level.
All opinions, Rich.
But Kovacic has played in 3 different teams in Champions League finals. He's got about 5 Champions League wins. He's won, you know, he's won everything there is in the game and taken his international team to overachieve more than any other international team there is. Croatia overachieve. So Kovacic is quite clearly good enough. Whether he's the right player at the right time in the right role, and Nunes as well. I think Nunes is a talented player. Again, you know, will he fit into Pep's system? Will Pep work out how to play him? I don't know, but I don't think it's right to say they're not our level. I think they're top players.
No. Let's move on to the next one that Tommy talked about today. Florent Wirtz. City have established, this is what he said earlier on, City have established the asking price for Florent Wirtz is 87.5 million. Very, very specific. Lower than expected, ? Could suggest cheeky buyout clause special. City have recently watched him again and aren't being scared off by the interest by Bayern Munich. And then he tweeted out straight after, Wirtz would also be in addition to Paquetá. City planning to recruit 2 new midfielders next summer. Florence Wirtz. We've talked about it here on the channel, Rich.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I can't pretend I'm, I've watched him play 100 times or anything, but, very talented young player. I think someone who'd come in and probably take, a year to be molded into the squad. I think, we're really looking with players like Paquetá and Wirtz and things, for life. I know we'll probably try and re-sign De Bruyne, but we need to think about life beyond Bernardo and De Bruyne. So, two midfielders kind of makes sense. One of them a replacement for a couple of years' time. I assume that would be the younger one, and one more immediately needed to replace Bernardo when he goes. So, it makes sense we go for two. The Bayern Munich interest, I think it's all one big circular, isn't it? In that, Musiala, if he and Sané stay at Bayern, and
we're not getting him as well, Rich, and Kimmich, and
no. But what I'm saying is if Kimmich, Sané, and Musiala all stay at Bayern, then Bayern's need to go inside midfielders isn't that big. If two of those players go, then Bayern have to go out and they have to replace two or three players. So a lot does depend on the merry-go-round. I mean, in some ways, I like the Musiala rumours because I think he's a player I've seen a little bit more of, and he's incredibly talented, but he's also a player who's expressed his interest in coming back to the Premier League. And, he's you can almost say he's homegrown in that, I think he spent most of his life growing up in the, in this country and playing in the England setup. I mean, he just went back to his roots to play for Germany. So, or his first generation roots. But he, so that'll be interesting. But there's a lot of rumours of Musiala from Premier League teams and from Madrid. And if he goes, then then you think
I've got another update. Which people, I'm sure
Sané's coming.
Sané's girlfriend is pushing to try and come back.
Yeah. So that's the
question. I don't even know where we're bloody standing.
The question is, do you think that we could do a transfer deal of Bernardo's wife for Leroy Sané's wife? And then Bernardo, then Bernardo would stay, and everything would be sorted.
Yeah, but by the way, this is the thing. I think we have to be careful now. I think if you're going to buy Florent Wirtz and Paquetá, I think that sadly would spell the end for Bernardo Silva. Now, this is just my opinion. I don't know we don't know anything on this, but that release clause has always bugged me because. Yes, he signed the contract, but that release clause is 50 million or just under. That's there for a reason. If you are desperate to stay at a football club, you don't ask for a release clause, especially one at under 50 million or just under it.
Yeah.
This is what's bugging me.
Do you think it's just that, or do you think it's the influence of Erling? In that Erling has managed his career on release clauses from 17 years old or 18 years old, whenever he first left Mulder, his whole career is based on release clauses. And ultimately, if he does decide he wants to go to Spain, we are subject to a release clause unless we renew him. So, maybe Bernardo's just learning that, because if you have a release clause, it puts you in control. As a player, you're in control of your career.
I mean, how old is Florent Wirtz? Florent Wirtz is...
I thought he's about 22, but
he's 20.
Is he 20? Bloody hell.
20 years old. So, I suppose, is it a decent swap? A KDB replacement, and Paquetá comes in and does the Bernardo role. Not the exact role, because I don't think you're ever going to get a Bernardo exact replica.
No, there's no Bernardo around. But ultimately,
that's what I'm saying. Is Paquetá the kind of person, and Wirtz comes in and it becomes the long-term KDB?
Well, I think if Bernardo goes, you have to bring in a top quality player who can play. In fact, Bernardo goes, you might even need to sign 2 because honestly, Bernardo goes, you've got to bring a top player. You've got to bring a top player to play the 2/3 of games Bernardo plays forward. But if Bernardo goes, you've also got tactically a challenge in the really, really big games in that how do you, and maybe Stones, if Stones stay fit, eliminates this, but how do you give the tactical flexibility that Bernardo offers a manager, which I can't think of many players in the world who offer their manager the tactical flexibility and discipline and that Bernardo does. I think we'll miss him terribly.
I mean, someone's put it, Lazille, I don't know where you got this from, mate. Is Bernardo dead to you because of release clause? No. But when there's a release clause and the players ask for that release clause, tells you that he wants to go somewhere else. Clearly, does it not? Name me players that have had contract extensions done and then they go, well, what release clause? Unless you're, and I'm talking about, I know in Spain they do it, but that's by La Liga rules. They have to have them, and they set them at 2 billion and 500 million. They set them at amounts that are never going to get to. For Bernardo Silva, it's set at just under 50 million quid. It's achievable by nearly every club, probably every club in England, nearly, in the Premier League, especially with the way the market is right now. And PSG could pay it. Barcelona could probably find it somewhere. So, I don't know. Rich, I'm getting phone calls now. People are phoning, man.
That's the thing, Martin. You're training as an in the know. So
I'm not an IT. I'm not the ITK. These people ringing me out.
Yeah. The reality is, as long as anything you ever say, you put a pinch of salt on it, because,
and that's what I'm going to do with the one at the end,
because
I don't believe
the end of the day.
What I will say, the one at the end, I don't believe.
Yeah, the end of the day, in any deal, I'm not just talking about signing of players. This is about buying a company or anything. You see it sometimes in buying houses. It's very often of an interest of a player to mislead other.
Rich,
come on. You've got to let him have his fun. Rich. You've got to let him have his fun.
Who said Rodri's out, Alan?
Spain.
No,
but the thing is,
for precautions.
Martin, Alan's joy in life is being miserable. Alan's joy in life is sharing bad news. There's nothing Alan likes more than to be the first person to hear about a bad injury or something and then share the news, like when Kovacic was out for 18 months, a few months ago. So
Alan went public
just let him have his fun.
Alan went public with that one and blamed me, and I wasn't even part of it.
But the point is that some people love the drama of bad news. Some people are overly optimistic. I'm always guilty of thinking players will be back earlier than they will because of deluded optimism, and Alan's the opposite. So we're all different, and I guess it doesn't the kind of. Do you remember? I don't know if you're old enough, but do you remember there used to be a show called the Fast Show, and there was a character called Unlucky Alf? That's Alan. There's nothing he likes more than being unlucky.
Bernardo has given us everything on the pitch. He can still say no to any team with a 50. No, he can. But my point is, he's not really going to do. Hang on, I have to take this. Yeah. Will you just, my mum's on the phone, will you just do this, Rich?
Yeah. Now, I think, Lazuli, I agree. Bernardo has given us everything on the pitch. I think if any player deserves to get their transfer to a sunny town, in the Mediterranean, it's Bernardo. But I think we're going to see more and more of these release clauses because
I've got to go worried about an asteroid hitting Earth. What do you mean?
With these players, if they put in release clauses, it keeps them in control, and it means that Bernardo is if he's got a 50 million release clause, even if someone it just gives him control. It means that
don't tell him
he can choose where he goes.
Jesus, Kate, don't tell him that. Alan is in panic mode. Stop being. No, listen. Alan just a bit worried. That's all. Right. So Florian Wirtz, we're having that one then, yeah. That one.
Yeah, I think that seems to make sense
Comes
as a
from a credible
KDB.
source. Told me he's quite credible. Well, yeah, very credible. So I'm using that.
For me, Martin, it makes sense because we need to mix our signings up between the top, the 24-year-old top international stars. We also need a few young players because I do like the idea of bringing the replacements for KDB, Bernardo, Gundogan before they go. We didn't really do it with Gundo. We're probably not going to be able to do it with Bernardo. So at least with KDB, and I hope with Rodri, because if we don't do it with Rodri, we're toast. Let's get their replacements in before they go and let their replacements have a year to play with them, or even 2 or 3 years, and really learn the system. So, and in that case, you need the right personality and that's where City are usually good at signing, really understanding people's personalities, because you don't want someone who's going to throw the toys out the pram.
Right.
1 second.
Okay. We'll move on to the big one. Now, what I'm about to say, please take with a massive pinch of salt. Because I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Rich, do you believe it? Don't say the name, but do you believe it?
Well, I'd heard
something
from a different source.
You've heard from a different source the same story.
I'd heard, yeah, but not on the Europe side, not on the nothing to do with City.
Okay. This is gonna blow. I got told 2 weeks ago, Tuesday. I don't fully believe it. I think I'm being wound up here. But the number 7 shirt is available at Manchester City Football Club.
And Cristiano Ronaldo is going to leave Saudi Arabia and come back to City to play CR7.
Apparently, Manchester City are prepared to get into bed with Kylian Mbappe.
I think my Cristiano.
I'm just going to stop there and let that settle in with everyone.
I think my Cristiano Ronaldo rumours better matter.
Richie's dog's totally in agreement with this. Now, do I believe it? No. Have I been told a lot of details about it? Yes. I got told it will be public within the next few days. To a point where apparently Mbappe is telling people on international duty he will be with Manchester City if all things go to plan on January. I don't know whether I believe it. I hinted at it a couple of weeks ago. Wouldn't break all FFP at all, mate, because he's only got 6 months left on his deal. Now, he's only got 6 months left on his current contract at PSG. Real Madrid dropped out, if you remember, last week. Do I trust my source? They've never let me down before. Do I trust them? 100%. Fee is where I don't believe it, Pardo. I don't know whether City will agree the fee. Because I don't think PSG are going to want. I think PSG are going to want a lot of money. Whether I believe it or not, I'm not sure. So people don't go out telling me, Mancunian way. We're not. We're told what we're told. I don't believe it personally. Rich does believe it. I don't. Why I talked about the other day about City being commercial and is this a signing that would change things and blah, blah, blah. I got told he's not going to stay at PSG because he's only got 6 months left of his contract. He'd have signed the contract by now. The only thing that makes me believe it a little bit is the same person told me Real Madrid were going to drop out, and 2 days later they dropped out.
And
Real Madrid did drop out. Why Real Madrid dropped out?
They could drop back in though.
What other club can offer Mbappe what he wants? So apparently Haaland had a big thing because they saw the impact Haaland had, shirt sales, everything else. So I don't know. I'm taking it with a very big pinch of salt. I'm not saying I'm against the people who told it us, because I trust them 1000%. I just don't believe Mbappe will end up at Manchester City Football Club. I really don't. But I didn't believe Erling Haaland sat with us.
And I think there's a lot more questions, man, because what I'd heard, and this was from France, was that there were only 3 that outside PSG where he's already gone. It was pretty much only Madrid and City that he would consider, and so it wasn't so much that. And I'd heard something about City. It's if Madrid's dropped out, that pretty much means that in his thinking, there is only PSG, Real Madrid, or City who can offer the footballing, financial, etc. things wanted. I think I have always thought that perhaps the other team is Liverpool, where they could raise a lot of money by selling
Liverpool
Salah.
Do have an interest,
and I do think that would put a huge dilemma in it for City, is that we have an uncertainty, whether we like it or not. There is an element of uncertainty on Haaland. In July, if he doesn't sign a new contract in July, he can be, we can't hold him if a club comes up. I know it's a huge amount of money, like 200 million euros or whatever by all accounts, but he has control. So Real Madrid, if they're cashed up, can come and say, we want Haaland. And if Haaland wants to go, I don't know why he'd want to go, and I don't see any signs he does. He's playing in the best league in the world, in a best team in the world. He's playing in a place where he is at home. My only worry with Haaland has always been slightly on the footballing things, is that he is so startlingly good as a transition player, and with a bit of space, and he doesn't get that. He does that sometimes cause him a frustration, or is it actually making him a much better player, and he loves that? Only he would know. But you kind of think there's 2 real stars in Haaland, possibly Vinicius a bit behind them, but Haaland and Mbappe on the cover of everything. So quite clearly City are going to want 1 or 2 of those. Real Madrid are going to want 1 or 2 of those. And, we're going to be fighting each other. I also reckon the effect of Bellingham at Madrid's probably stung City, in that, they're probably thinking, how much money could we be making, and how much impact could we be having if we'd actually signed Bellingham and not lost out to Madrid. So I think there's increasingly a bit of a battle between those 2 teams, between us and Madrid, for really having that
mantle
of the picture club on the front of every computer game, etc.
What I want people to realize is, I'm not saying it's done. I said there's an interest. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Doesn't mean they're going to agree fees. These are just, I've always said to you, there's an interest. The thing is, he has 6 months left on a deal in January. So it is possible. I'm not saying it's 100% going to happen, because we can't. Because remember, I'm always careful now because I did this on Bellingham when I said Bellingham's going to sign and he didn't. But I don't. If you said to me, do I think it's going to happen? I don't think it will happen, no. I think City, for me, I find him too egotistical. I don't see him signing for Manchester City. I don't see him as a Manchester City signing. That's just my opinion. I think City have got an interest in loads of players. I'm just not sure Mbappe fits with us. I think, is it me or are people putting... I don't know. I don't know whether I believe it. I really don't. I'm in
but a lot, yeah. I mean, the reality is that the ego thing depends whether Pep's ego is big enough that Pep thinks he can, and that's the thing. Pep wanted him. We tried really, really hard when he was at Monaco. Pep was desperate for him, back in, was it 17, 18? And City tried really, really hard. And Pep has spoken to him on a number of occasions. So ultimately, the ego thing, we just don't know. That it's the press play a story, but PSG is a club with a chairman with a massive ego, with, Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe, and everyone's just briefing against each other. So I just don't know. My gut is he doesn't seem like the sort of player we want at City. But how much of that is real and how much of that is, people always talk about as if Messi's some kind of modest, but Messi has a machine behind him, running his, reputation, his PR, everything. I mean, Messi's $1 billion business. So Mbappe and Neymar and Messi have had their people briefing against each other and blaming things on this, and PSG's done the same. And so they've been an absolute mess. And the question is that, is that the kind of reality of it? If he doesn't go to Madrid, Madrid are going to brief everything against him as well. So, it's what is the truth of it? And probably
I got see. I knew this was going to happen.
People know.
Listen, look, I did say at the very beginning, take it with a pinch of salt.
He's already got his shirt printed Blue Heart. I've seen it.
I did say with a pinch of salt because I didn't believe it at the beginning. I did say that. You go back, I did say pinch of salt, and it isn't the normal person I hear from. It's a different person who's told me. Rich heard the same rumor as well. So
not from City, not from the
people
City
think
side,
I'm back. I'm not. I said at the very beginning, take with a pinch of salt. So we'll see. So
if it was to happen,
we're going to talk rumors.
If it was to happen, do you not think it would force Madrid to try and sign Haaland in the summer?
That's what worries me.
And do you think, as a player,
well, here's one, Rich. Have you heard Haaland's agent today?
He's going to be the first £1 billion a year player. That's I'd heard her saying that he was. She reckons he could earn $1 billion.
These are the quotes from Haaland's agent. I'm just going to get them for you now. Haaland's agent has said earlier on, he said his agent is called Rafaela Pimento. On the links to Real Madrid, Erling is the master of his own destiny. He will always do what's good for him and Man City. When they all are open to change, it will happen. Erling will always be respectful. Respect has to be on both club and the player side. I've no doubts. Man City will respect him. If something has to happen one day, we will agree on every step together with the club. It's always about respect. Then his agent went on to talk about, is he happy in Manchester? He says, ask him. I'm not saying opposite. I know that, but I'm not speaking for others. Great sporting results come when you're happy, good feeling, good energy, then things can happen. So, to me, is it people putting 2 and 2 and coming up with 4? I don't know. Or 2 and 2
No,
coming up with 5?
Well, no, I think it's 2 and 2 and coming up with 4, in the sense that he has kept control of his career with, you know, the release clauses and everything else. And when he signed, we knew that we were going to have to. He was going to have to feel at City that he was at the best club in the world and enjoying his role in the best club in the world. And at the moment, I think he is. So I don't see. I think he's got some Premier League records in his mind, and I think he looks happy. But I think we have to accept that if he ever goes through a period where he feels less happy, that he will be in control and able to go, and we will have less control of that. And I think City have realised. I'll say this from living in Sydney, that, you know, I've not seen a player who has had even a fifth of the coverage of Haaland in terms of stuff around here. You know, Haaland's the face. I don't know if it's Xbox or PlayStation or both, but he's the face
FIFA.
of
FIFA. Yeah, FIFA.
Yeah, he's the face of FIFA. So you go into any store selling electrical goods, you got posters of Haaland. He's the face of Stan, who are the
Rich, by the way, just while
channel.
Julie's got commented that, I know Blue Out was kidding earlier, but anyone who's saying Martin's ITK, look, I said Martin did say with a pinch of salt that he does not believe it.
Yeah,
very much.
And you got to remember that Martin's just getting texts off my burner phone.
Give over. No, I'm
yeah.
just.
So Haaland is so high profile. You'll see. I've seen City shirts with Haaland on the back.
I wouldn't like to swap Haaland for Mbappe though, Rich.
No, because I prefer Haaland.
Haaland's a blue. Haaland.
Yeah, I prefer Haaland, and Haaland's a blue. Although, if you took out all the emotion and said who would be suited to a team who has so much possession in the final quarter, you would probably say that Mbappe is a more dangerous player in that circumstance than Haaland. And that's the trouble. And if you were putting them in the Madrid team playing on the transition, Haaland, you know, you watch Haaland when he gets a chance on transition, how good he is and how few he gets at City. That must be a little bit of a frustration to Haaland.
Yeah,
because his greatest strength is taking. So
I mean,
that's what's worried me a little bit about if he gets frustrated.
Today, we've been in the last week, because it was on. I don't know. It was on Team Talk as well the other day about Mbappe and Sarah. That City were one of 4 clubs: Liverpool, Real Madrid. Even though Real Madrid said they were out, City, Liverpool, Real Madrid, and I can't remember who the 4th club was that were holding an interest in Mbappe. Now, the Mbappe thing's intriguing because he has only got 6 months in January. In January, he can sign for any club outside of France, free for summer. Yep. So that's interesting. But you think about it, Rich, in the last week, we've been linked with, and this is from numerous sources, Florent Wirtz, Leroy Sané, Kylian Mbappe. Who was the other one? Lucas Paquetá, Musiala, and Kimmich,
and Jadon Sancho.
And Jadon Sancho was mentioned. Is it City aren't going to buy all of these players? And this is why I say there is a difference between holding interest and making bids. Because I think what we've got.
And everything depends on the players we have and what we think is happening with them. So if we know, if we, for example, know that Barcelona have raised the cash and can go for Bernardo, then we're going to be far, far more active in that player that we want for that role than if we think there's a 80% chance Bernardo staying, 20% chance he goes. We're going to build our plans around Bernardo staying, and that's the reality. If we're worried Haaland might go, we're going to act differently than if Haaland's told us he's staying for the next 6 years and we're about to sign a new contract with him, in which case we're going to be like, well, we've got Haaland for the next 5 years, let's not change anything. And the bigger worry about signings, any signings coming in, is that what we don't want is to lose brilliant young players. Like, any forward signing makes me worry about Alvarez, because Alvarez is a fantastic young player, but Alvarez wants to play as much as he's playing now. So anyone we sign up front who expects to play every game, that's going to affect the game time of, well, it's either going to push someone like Grealish out, or it's going to take game time from Phil and Alvarez.
But this is my thing, bitch. We can't buy everyone. And are we willing to let go of Grealish and willing to let go of Bernardo to bring in? Is it just turnover to Manchester City players? Is it just football? This is what happens.
It's just football. Bernardo's not our choice. I'm sure if you ask Pep tomorrow, he'd give Bernardo a 7-year contract and Bernardo stays till he's 35. But, Bernardo has now done it all at City. Bernardo's not going to be thinking, I want to break Ryan Giggs' Premier League record. He's got what he wants, and he wants to go and bring up his kids in the sunshine in a villa with a swimming pool, things like that.
Hang on, whoa. Sané hasn't got a release clause, John. Sané hasn't got a release clause.
You wouldn't think so. I've never heard of buying.
He hasn't got a release clause. Well, where's that come from, John? Hasn't got a release clause. As far as I'm aware, he's not got one. He's only got 2 years left on his deal. Exactly. And this is the other thing. BB makes a good point. Are things smoke screens for another player? Are City putting red herrings out? So they're throwing a name out. So maybe someone's throwing Mbappe out, because we're going after another player. Like someone said to me, someone was trying the other day, trying to make anyway. Could you imagine Messi in 6 months? Because Messi needs somewhere to go and look. I went, no, because you're just throwing names now. This is not FIFA. Yeah. And this is my personal opinion. I don't believe, as I said earlier, I think killing Mbappe is just throwing names out to people to get interest. And the thing that gets me worried is, if you get Mbappe, you're not going to be able to have Mbappe, Haaland, Alvarez, Foden, Doku, Grealish, Bernardo, Paquetá. Who else have been linked with? Wirtz. It was the other one.
Musiala
and Sané.
No, you're not.
Image. Where we're playing them all, Rich.
But I think what you got to think is, going back to the Mbappe one, Martin, there are only 3 or 4 clubs where he can go to.
And who's this?
Ultimately, yeah. Same with Haaland. There's only 2 or 3 clubs Haaland could leave City for. In fact, probably even less with Haaland, because he wouldn't go to another English club. So you've got these top players, and they want to be playing for the best teams in the world. And at the moment, honestly, financially and in terms of football quality, that probably means you got a choice between Real Madrid and City. Possibly Bayern, but Bayern is slightly different financially and given, players they've signed recently. So there has to be, it's almost impossible there wouldn't be incredibly strong interest by those clubs in those players and vice versa, because they're the players who make the money. They're the players who clubs make money from. And I think both Madrid and City will have one massive fear.
Look at Alec. Buy everyone.
Yeah. Madrid's fear would be Haaland and Mbappe at City. And I've got no doubt City would have a really big fear about Mbappe signing for Madrid and Haaland then in 18 months putting a clause. Right. Because you don't want the 2 biggest stars in the game playing for your biggest rival for the Champions League.
Is it Pep's had an interest in Mbappe before, so he's only got 6 months left, so he's naturally going to be linked with Mbappe?
If Pep thinks a player is one of the best 11 players in the world, and he thinks and he's had an interest in them, that interest doesn't often go away. Pep has, expressed interest on a number of occasions, and he tried so hard to sign Mbappe, to the extent when Mbappe went to Paris, he went out of his way to say that not signing for City wasn't because he wasn't signing for Pep, it was that he wasn't signing for City. So Mbappe went out of his way to praise Pep, and they spoke on a lot of occasions. So I think there's actually been a far longer term interest of Pep in Mbappe than there ever was with Haaland. Haaland was, much more about the club. Haaland was about the club, more than just Pep being after Haaland.
I just need to clarify this with Lazila. As Barca finally paid for Ferran Torres, figure it's 90 million, 50 for Bernardo and 40 on. No, it doesn't work like that, Lazila. The Ferran Torres was done over the length of his contract. So did he sign a 5-year contract at Barca?
I think so, and I think he was.
So it would be 40 million
a year or something,
spread over the 5 years over amortization. The release clause is very different because they would need that bulk of that up front. I think it's 1 or 2 payments on a release clause. So the Bernardo one, yes, they would need a bigger bulk. With Torres, they missed 1 payment, I got told, and that's fine. They sorted all that back out with City and just rearranged it. So fans need to come out of this Ferran Torres stuff of Barcelona was a shit ton of money. They don't. It is over the length of his contract, which is what majority of transfers are done. Otherwise, no club would ever pass FFP because they'd be spending 200 million. Like United spent 200 million in the summer. That didn't come out all 200 million. City spent over 200 million. We didn't spend all 200 million in one lump. It goes across amortization over the. So you might do 10 million down, which goes onto your books for this year. And then you'll do what, Rich? 8-9 million the next year, and then 8-9 million then the year after, and it gets figured out like that.
It's like paying a mortgage or paying your car off,
or a car payment.
Some of them it's even monthly payments on players. You play.
Here's another name. Thank you, Bailey. Nico Williams then got mentioned the other day. Have we just been linked with all wingers?
I think anyone called Williams is welcome at City. I think we need. I think we do need to strengthen our Welsh, connections. So maybe I'm going to start a rumor about us. Being what's that lad from Bournemouth?
Someone's going to put on Twitter in the next hour. Martin from the Mancunian Way said City are buying Mbappe. When I didn't, I said I got told there was an interest. Didn't say I believed it. And I will never, ever say who that was from. Personally, don't think our Viking is a mercenary. We know he's a blue. When Pep leaves, it may be different. For now, I think he's not going anywhere.
I hope so. I sincerely hope so. I've also heard, Martin, that maybe if we don't get Florian Wirtz, we're going to go for Harry Wilson to get that. Harry Wilson and Nico Williams are the backups for Florian Wirtz and Mbappe.
It's just mad. Why, Martin? It's possible in FIFA career mode. Exactly. If you list the players we've been linked with in the last 7 days, it is mad.
It's interesting. I've seen a few City fans say this about Paquetá being overrated. The reality is, City have watched
that's
him
my son. He hasn't told me that personally.
Has he? But a lot are saying it. But for whatever reason, 5 years.
Johnny
we've been watching Paquetá for 5 years.
Not that we know about, anyway.
We had people at Lyon watching him for 2 years every week. So for whatever reason, Pep has always thought that Paquetá is a player who could mould into the way Pep plays football, and he has thought so for a very long time. So, it really is. He's probably one of the players we've watched for the longest, apart from probably Mbappe, who obviously we tried to sign from Monaco. He is Paquetá is a player Pep rates and is a player we have watched literally hundreds of times.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yes,
yeah. It's interesting. The other one we talk about the and this is the funny thing with football and PR and everything is that everyone says we hate Mbappe's attitude, but I've barely ever heard Mbappe say a word. I've barely ever heard him say a word. All we hear is, politics going on at PSG. It's not that he's falling out with his teammates. You see it on the pitch. It's just the ship around PSG, and that's why is Mbappe the character we think he is, or is that right. PSG?
Sorry, Liz, I need to check. Rich, do you want to put Lazili right?
No, just saying.
No, I'm
just saying the contract is amortized. Payments are, I believe, the most common payment is split over the life of the contract. So 4 years.
How Chelsea get around
but obviously there are some clubs when they sell who want the money up front, and you will get a player slightly cheaper and you'll be much more favoured to sign if you pay up front. City have actually done a number of deals where we've paid the lot up front because of our ability to generate cash and get cash. That has been used by City a lot to get to where we've got to, is using cash up front to get players that we may not have otherwise got.
Yeah, and the reason we know Lazili is because Stefan, SLBSN, and Rich are actually in the same field, basically.
Yeah. But Lazili's right. There is accounting for the P&L.
Yes, you are right in what you're saying. I'm just saying, I know Ferran Torres was amortized. There was, the Barcelona were never going to pay 40 up front.
Yeah. The only way you can really find out is you can pretty much work it out. Or to a good degree, you can work it out when you look at the P&L and the cash flow and the balance sheet at the end of the season to see how much cash has gone out, for the inflows and outflows compared to, what's booked. But the truth is, that's the negotiation in anything. That's why Arsenal ended up paying so much for Declan Rice, because by all accounts, City would have put the cash down. And Arsenal was wanting to pay it over 6 years. And with interest rates as they are now, paying it over 6 years is about a 40% discount. So that's why, City could go in and say, we'll give you 90 million for a player today, cash up front. Someone else wants to pay it over 6 years, they're going to have to pay 120.
Yeah. Good night, Paul. Thank you for joining. Do you know what I think it is? I think as fans, we get too hung up on payments and finances and everything else. I think we just got to let the clubs deal with that. Because I do know, Lazile, and this is to everyone, not just you, mate, I do appreciate what you're saying, is 100%, 1000% is that the way it works generally on a transfer is the way. It's why Chelsea got in trouble a lot. Because remember, they were trying to amortize over 8 years to get. Who was it they were trying to do originally, Rich, on the 8-year deal? Was it Mudryk? Was it Mudryk?
Yeah, what was it? I think it was
the way they were doing it is they were buying players on their eventual value. So where their value will be when they've hit sort of their peak, shall we say, at the time. Because at the time, Mudryk was not a £90 million player. But hang on, carry on, Rich. I'm now getting something else. I'm saying nothing anymore. I'm just going keeping quiet and all these things. So that's where it's at basically. It's like when they bought Mudryk 90 million, they bought Caicedo, but then UEFA went, no, yes, you can give them an 8-year deal, but but you can only maximize the amortization over 5 years. So you can give them 8, 9, 10-year deals all you want, but you're still paying over 5. And that's the max you're going to. Don't think you can spread your payments over 8 to get around FFP. In a way, and is it why Chelsea are a bit in trouble now, Rich? Because I know they're in a little bit of bother a little bit, aren't they?
I think so.
I don't know. It's interesting. But shout out Big Steve. I sold my car to Lucas Paquetá. Many clubs. Hey, mate, we all want cash is king, but it doesn't mean you're going to get it. That's why, if you remember, Rich, the Declan Rice to Arsenal deal took ages. They'd agreed the fee, and then remember, the deal wasn't announced for about, was it 2.5 weeks? Because West Ham wanted a bigger payment up front than what Arsenal were prepared to give them. I think Rich is in the middle of either work day or he's just getting other stuff. Every time Paquetá gets a yellow card for City, VAR will look into it. So, do you know what I think we've got to look at here? Is no matter what's going to happen is, and I've always said this, don't get too attached to certain players because they might not be here in 2 or 3 years and then you're all fighting when your favourite goes. Because the one thing we know is, from today, Paquetá and Florent Wirtz are wanted. Sané, there's been so many if, buts, and maybes on that rumour. Some have said he's in, some have said he's out. His girlfriend wants to come, he wants to come. Liverpool want this, Liverpool want that. Kylian Mbappe is wanted by City, but I don't believe that, but we'll see. Listen, if Kylian Mbappe comes off, I'm going to look like I'm the biggest ITK knowing it, and I'm not. I don't fully believe it. I think it's just his agent and other people using our name. But we'll see. Because then there's the panic on Haaland. Then there's the panic on Alvarez. We all need to relax and just let things happen. What do you think, Rich? Do we get too excited on transfers?
I think, I think people... Well, I think people always believe that, you have to be signed. Some people always believe that, every time someone has a bad game, or we should sign someone who's just going to be perfect for every game. And, we think players are coming, it's like a new toy, isn't it? Someone who always wants to get a new car or always wants to do this or that. And we just get overexcited. It's something to talk about during international breaks, etc., etc. But, the way I look at it is, it is far more about, do we have any real pressing needs in the squad? So do we have a space where, I've always been worried about the backup to Rodri, apart from about the first month when Phillips signed, when I thought, we've finally replaced that position. So I actually look at it more and think, right, where are the players who want to leave our team? Probably Bernardo. Where are the players who are comfortably past 30? Walker, De Bruyne. Where are the players we don't have a natural position in that player in that position, possibly left back? So I look at it and I think, well, when I'm thinking about signings, well, we need to think about Bernardo and De Bruyne. So to me, Wirtz and Paquetá make a lot of sense. We're going to need to replace, whether we like it or not, Walker within the next. We need the Walker backup.
I told you,
it's Reece James. Yeah, well, that's
I want Reece James. But
the day Reece James comes, he plays
then.
Unless he's injured.
Is there going to be a because one thing I would say about today is they're all foreign players. There's not many homegrown.
No.
So does that mean are they going to scrap the homegrown rule at some point, or a City just go in? Because this is what people need to realise. We can only have, at the moment, under
17,
current Premier League rules, 17 foreign players.
Yeah.
So we can't buy all these players
Because where did he go?
Do you think there is a maybe a provocative question about City, but do you think there is a kind of fact that we are more attractive, that if you are talking about a South American or a French or a Spanish player, that in the press, in the media, and the way City are perceived is a lot more favourable relative to the other Premier League clubs? And when you talk about English players, not only is there the English tax, but City are perceived less favourably to young English players, perhaps, than they are to young Spanish, or, you know, and in that it wasn't Bellingham himself, but there obviously was someone around Bellingham, whether it was his dad or something, who did make
he has
some
two
remarks
agents
that were,
now.
yeah.
Someone come out. He does have two agents.
But some people around Bellingham made disparaging remarks about City. I've never heard those remarks from non-English players.
People said it was his dad. It wasn't his dad.
Yeah, I've never heard those remarks from non-English players about City. But
have you
players,
ever heard anyone make them remarks? Now, I know people say Grealish and Walker said bad remarks about City on Twitter, but they've never come out and said, I've never heard any player come out or agent come out and said about another club, they're plastic and fake.
No, I haven't. But my point is that if you are growing up in this country, reading the papers and everything else, do you have a slightly less favourable view to City? And combine that with the English tax, and it becomes much, much harder for us to go and sign a top English player than to sign a top player.
Then they need to change the rules.
Else.
Then they need to change the rule, Rich.
Well, they're not gonna. I mean, I don't think they're gonna change the rule.
Then we can't buy all these foreign players.
No, but what we have to do is have enough Fodens and Rico Lewis's.
Well, how many homegrown have we got now? We've got Rico. Technically, Rico's not really technically included because.
So if we go back, we'd have Carson. We would have.
Well, Rich, we can't keep signing Carson onto a 10-year contract.
No, but at the moment we've got Carson, we've got Johnny Stones, we've got Carl Walker. Rico isn't actually counted because he's under 21. He's young enough. So he can be added. You know, he's not a number in our squad.
Paul makes a great point. You can get Reece James when Chelsea get relegated. I think you mean because of the charges that might be coming to them. But don't say that, because everyone's going to be saying we are. I mean, I'm going to look it up now.
Imagine how good it'll be if City and Chelsea are in the National League next year, and only one can go up. Only one can go up. One would have to go up through the playoffs, and the other one would go up automatically.
Right, I'm just going to look at it now for the squad lists. Let me look. Squad lists for who? Who was it? Premier League. So squad list. We did this a couple of weeks ago. Manchester City for 23, 24. Right, I've got it here. Yeah. So our squad list is, we have got Carson, there's one, Rich.
Yeah.
Kyle Walker, 2. Johnny Stones, 3.
Stones, yeah.
Does Ake come under homegrown?
Yeah. He's not club trained, because there's two parts of homegrown, isn't there? There's club trained.
I don't know. Does anyone in the comments know these exact things?
And one of them's different. That might be in Europe. You have club trained. So club trained means they have to be at the club for 2 years before they're 20. But I think that's in Europe. So in Europe, you can't even have 8 homegrown. You can have 4 external homegrown, so like association trained.
I'm not sure if Oscar Bob comes under it though, because he's Norwegian.
I think Oscar Bob is probably still isn't he still 21?
Yeah, so he's not technically in it.
He might be on the B list, because if you're under 21, you go on the B list, and you can have 100 people on your B list. So if you sign young players, then they can.
It's very complicated, because I know we had this debate weeks ago, but it is really weird when you look at it and you think, because looking at this, and I've now found the exact page I want
It's
Oh,
associate. I mean, the rules. It's actually association trained, isn't it? So
well, I'm
it's
now
like,
on the Premier League website, which is what
you
they
have to be
use
3
for it.
years, as I understand it, in a Premier League or in an English league club.
Right,
For
Rich,
3
I've got
years
it.
before 21.
I've got it. Homegrown, 25-man squad. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 8. We have 20 if you include one of the youngsters. So our homegrowns are Nathan Acker, he is homegrown.
Yeah.
Scott Carson, 2. Phil Foden, 3. Jack Grealish, 4. Calvin Phillips, 5. John Stones, 6. Kyle Walker, 7. You are going to lose Calvin Phillips. Takes us down to 6. Oscar Bob comes under the under 21s.
Yeah,
As
so
does Josko Gabardio, as does James McAtee, as does Rico Lewis, and as does Jeremy Doku.
Yeah. But they will go, I think 2 of them will go, Bob and Doku and things will go into the homegrown list next
That's
year.
a good point, Matt Fogg, by the way.
But
I did hear that as well. That they decided to sign Vinicius Jr. to a new contract and go after Mbappe.
they've also got the young Brazilian lad who they reckon is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, haven't they? Eldrick or whatever his name is.
It begins with a.
I think it's Eldrick.
Eldrick, yeah, he's yeah.
Tiger Woods' name. Isn't that Eldrick? Eldrick Woods is Tiger's name, so I think he's named after him. But he's seen as being a massive star.
Do you know,
the reality is,
my mate said to me, I said earlier, Messi's going to need a loan somewhere. Will Pep want one last dance with Messi? I don't. I think Messi's an old man now. Forget that one.
I think you'd have to change too much for him. And I don't. I think you want, if we're going to have the biggest stars in the world, we want the next generation of biggest stars in the world, not to go back to a 36-year-old.
Oh, I love it, Blue Art. Haaland. No, Haaland is not classed as homegrown. Good try, though, even though I don't understand that one because he was born in Leeds.
No, but you have to be 3 years at an English club.
Or born in the country.
Or Welsh club. No, I don't think it's not born.
So where you were born matters not a jot anymore.
Not if you choose not to play for them and you leave when you're 2. No.
All right then. Haaland should have.
You know who is homegrown? Musiala. Musiala's
yes, because he was brought up by Chelsea's academy. No, yeah. It isn't. Musiala he could train as well. FIFA.
Yeah.
Good question about Haaland. He was born in England. That's what we're just saying now. It is a weird one. No to Messi. Big no. Listen, I've said no to Mbappe, so I'm saying no to Messi. Endrick. Thank you. Hello there.
Endrick. I'll say it's not Edric. Okay, Endrick.
Have to be trained in England. Thank you, Lazila. I'm loving this. Is why I love this community because you guys are so knowledgeable and I love it. You help each other. It is amazing.
That's why Musiala is more valuable to an English team than any other German international that age because he takes up a different slot.
No, FIFA doesn't because they've got to have been trained for 3 years.
3 seasons, yeah, before 21.
Yeah. Messi would decided to go out to pasture. The thing is, though, we brought Frank Lampard in. Just throwing it out there. Anyway, we're going to end in a minute because, Jesus, and my head's spinning with the amount of names we've thrown up tonight.
Is that another rumour? We're going to sign Jesus back. It's another rumour. You heard it first here on the channel.
Gerard Braithwaite Martin, he's going to be a superstar and homegrown. Isn't Newcastle interested in him?
Isn't there some young lad at Leeds we're trying to sign who's going to be the next superstar at the moment? Like apparently something like Ashley Horsworth or something like that. He had a real kind of Yorkshire name.
I didn't even want Messi back in 16-17 when they were there. Heavy rumours Pep wanted him. Yeah. Apparently, I danced around an ice cream as well. Sané came back. Would he be classed as homegrown? No, because he was from Schalke. Originally, I believe, once at Schalke.
Yeah.
Because you remember Sané played against us in the youth team final when we played Schalke.
Yeah.
Were United not found? Yes, they were found guilty, but they only got a 300,000 pound fine. Isco to Manchester City. Come on, let's get the Isco rumours going again.
What about Mido? Mido? Is he still playing?
Mido? Bloody hell, Rich.
Yeah.
Dennis Law. Is he still playing? Great show tonight. Great post. Listen, the one thing I can tell you is 1,000% is Paquetá and Florent are definitely being interested in. Sané, I don't know. And Mbappe, I will ask again. I will find out what I can, but I think we're being mugged off. And that's not from the people telling me the info, because we are not the ITKs. We get the information. We're not the ITKs. I've showed you we're not the ITKs. It's the info we get from other people. Yes, United pleaded guilty to cheating. Leeds United are set to land a British record fee for a 15-year-old player when Finlay Gorman leaves the club for Manchester City in the near future. Thank you, Muddy Duck. You are a superstar again. This again why I love this community and I love you guys. You're amazing.
Apparently, we think is a generational talent. I don't know much about 15-year-old Leeds players, but apparently we think he's a generational talent.
Well, there you go.
Right.
We are going to end it there. What I want to say is big thank you to everyone. We've only had 64 likes tonight, which is a bit lower than normal. But, if you want to, maybe it's me. I don't know. Yeah, 64 likes. If you can smash that like button on your way out, there's been well over 100 of you on tonight. If you can smash that thumbs up, it does help your channel big time. Listen, we're not ITKs. A lot of this is what we're hearing. And also, like we said, it's in the description. A lot of it is rumours that the media and people have put out. So we talk about it. Because there's nothing to talk about on international duty, but we want to bring you shows as well. Last night, if you've not managed to watch the gloat stream of how Manchester City have become record revenue within British football, go back and watch it with me and Pat. It's a great show. And by the way, if anyone throws you 115, what they've got to realise is one day the Premier League will realise what they've actually accused us of, because it's about as big as the moon landing conspiracy, what they've actually accused us of. It is massive what they've actually accused Manchester City of doing. It is huge. But yeah, go back and watch them. Tomorrow night, I will be joining LB. That's who I was texting with at the same time. LB's not the ITK. LB asked me to do a show with him tomorrow night, so I will be on It's LB tomorrow night around about 9ish. Come and join us for that one. We're just going to have a chilled out stream apparently. Rich will be back next week. I think we're going to start the main road shows, Rich.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I've been sitting there, I was actually looking at a few of my old programs from the 80s, talking about back in the days where you could have Miss Manchester City in the program and 19-year-olds all looked like they were 40 years old. And, Bovril had beef in it. And Vimto, Wagon Wheels, the pink chips across the road, parking near the Beehive and, getting your car minded when it was only £1. Main road days, beautiful. Can't wait.
What the accusers are basically 9 to 10 years of fraud, of basically fraud and lying to accountants and auditors and everything else. Serge Gnabry to City. We've got a new one, Rich. Anyway, it is lovely to have you back. Big up to Alan for the super chat. Thank you so much. We will be back next week with the main road show, hopefully, with myself, Rich, and Big Steve. And we will begin our countdown to the big game at the weekend. Manchester City, lunchtime kickoff, take on Liverpool back at the Etihad with 10 players. We're going to play with 10 because we can't bring out 11 fit players. I'm joking, Alan. Calm down. So yes, we'll be back and we'll start our countdown to Liverpool. So thank you very much. We will see you all. Have a lovely weekend. We're going to have a little bit of a break because it is internationals, and we'll see you. But don't forget, it's LB tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Get over there. Come and help us. All the links down to the amazing City channels down below. I think Andy might even have not sure if Andy's got a quiz on Sunday as well. Go and give that a lot of love. But we will see you all next week. Take care. And don't forget, these are just rumours. Nothing's concrete. See you all soon. Computer's just froze. It won't let me end. But I've got it now. It's come on lots. Bye.
I could do it.